Hey guys, welcome back to the Kool-Aid Podcast. Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 100. Let me introduce my co-host for today, Alex.
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right, guys. On today's episode, since it's the international break, Barcelona isn't playing and everything. I just thought that we give you guys like a weekly roundup, just basically what's going on in the Barca world, what news is there, what's going on, and some of the topics that we wanted to discuss was the Negreira case. So there were some updates on that, some interesting news and reports that came out. Lionel Messi, is he returning to Barcelona? Kun Agüero and Laporta have spoken on the Lionel Messi return and saying, hey, the doors for Barcelona are always open. We're going to be discussing that, seeing like, hey, is it a Lionel Messi return possible? And then also touch upon some injury updates. Unfortunately, just like every single international break, our players seem to get injured, and the international break never does us any good. We have some players injured, and we're going to be touching up on the recovery times and if they're going to be able to make that super important El Clasico on April the 5th. But Alex, first topic of the day, the Negreira case. So, as reported by Fabrizio Romano and BBA Football and by many others, the Spanish Treasury, they have found zero evidence that Barcelona has paid the referees. Obviously, but what Barcelona has said time and time again, like, hey, we were paying for basically technical reports, referee reports, something that all the top clubs do. And when they paid over 7 million, and I think the basically what the fee that was being exposed, like saying, hey, Barcelona paid this, and what's being investigated was like a payment of 1.4 million from the period of 2014 to 2018 or 2016 to 2018, so something like that. And so that was the period in which it was being investigated, and the Spanish Treasury, they didn't find anything. It seems like what Barcelona was saying was true. As you can see, the Spanish Treasury have found no evidence that Barcelona's payments to former referee committee vice president Negreira influenced results, and that is basically the Spanish Treasury. But you guys know how much Javier Tebas hates Barcelona. So he later on, so Fabrizio Romano reported that UEFA opens up an investigation into the Negreira case for Barcelona in accordance with Article 31.4. UEFA ethics and disciplinary inspectors will carry out an investigation into possible violation of UEFA's legal framework. So basically, Javier Tebas was saying, it's like, hey, let's basically make Barcelona's life even more difficult. And since the Spanish committee, they didn't find anything, maybe UEFA will find something. And you guys know how much Javier Tebas hates Barcelona. And some possible punishments for this is that a ban from European competitions and maybe the stripping of titles. But that isn't like the extreme, and I doubt this is going to happen. But Alex, I want to give your thoughts on the whole Negreira case. Well, what are your feelings? What are your thoughts? Well, talk to me. What's up?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the whole Negreira trying to get an appeal for UEFA to get into the investigation um and to basically conduct the same investigation, I think it's just beating a dead horse, and it clearly shows the bias against Barcelona within Spain,
Yeah.
and how much they despise the club. And it's really horrible to see this, because I know for a fact if it were any other teams, say Atletico or Real or any other team in the league, they wouldn't be going with these as far as this to try to prove
Yeah.
something that personally I don't think is there. But again, it just shows the clear bias that there is in the country towards Madrid. And obviously it's not Madrid's fault. It's not the fans' fault, the players' fault, but it shows that at a high level, right, at an executive level, there's obviously a lot that's going on against us,
Well, I
and
mean,
it's apparent, right?
well, so sorry to cut you off, but Tevez
Mhm.
did say constantly before that he is a Madrid fan. He is a Madridista. He supports Real Madrid. But he has said like, hey, because I'm the president of Valley Tebas, I can't I support Real Madrid. But that's just clearly just like political talk, because if you
Yeah,
hear his
yeah,
interviews,
it's
he constantly says like, "Hey, the only team who can sign Mbappe and Haaland and all these players, and who's the best team in the league is Real Madrid." His
yeah.
words don't back up his actions don't back up his words.
Mhm.
Um,
No,
and
and it's not
so,
even like, yeah, it's not even a matter of, conspiracy theories, or, yeah, I know I can't prove this, but likewise, I don't think they're ever gonna prove that there was any pain to the referees um for having an advantage, for getting decisions called
well, I
their
mean,
way.
the payments do exist. Like the payments to the referees exist, but
No, but they're, yeah, like you said, they were
yeah,
refereeing reports. It's
yeah,
something completely different, right?
exactly, because how are you gonna prove that Barcelona paid the refs in order to be favored? Like that's something number one, very hard to prove, and on top of that, the reports exist, in which Barcelona did receive, but Barcelona paid for these reports and they received the reports. It was simple as that. Um, and another thing is that if Barcelona, if let's think about this, if Barcelona were indeed trying to blackmail, and basically bribe referees, why would you leave a paper trail? Why would you leave
Exactly.
invoices? Why,
Yeah,
why,
something like that wouldn't happen at that level.
at that level? No, you'd be discreet about it. You would not basically try to. You'd be discreet about it. You wouldn't leave a paper trail about it. And so this is just another one of the many misses that Bartomeu created.
For sure.
Um,
And like you said, I think it's more of a waste of time than it is anything. They're just wasting time and resources on something that's not there. But I think UFA is gonna give us the same results. We're not gonna see anything different.
yeah,
It just really sucks, seeing all the bias, and at the end of the day, all the hatred, right? Because you know
yeah.
it's what it feels like. But be that as it may,
No,
we're
because
just gonna see. I mean, again, nothing has been proven, and I think it's gonna stay that way. And we're just gonna see that they're just after us. But
no,
there's nothing.
exactly. And I think this is like in a deep root. Like this comes like from a desire not to see Barcelona win. Because when you think
Of
about
course, of course.
that golden era from like 2006 to 2015, Barcelona were winning everything. They were winning Champions
Hmm.
League, they were winning La Ligas. They were literally the best team in the world, the best club in the world. They were completely unstoppable. And no one wants to see that, just because it wasn't only what they want, but how they want it. They want it in complete domination.
For sure. I
um,
mean, you can look back at dominating United in, what was it, two, three UCL finals.
exactly. Uh-huh. In both UCL finals. And then
Yeah, two UCL finals.
this was Man United's best team. For example, these are some more quotes from Javier Tebas. I still don't get why Laporta isn't giving explanations. Barcelona should be worried. The Negreira case makes me lose sleep. Um, and these are just one of a couple of quotes from Negreira, in which no, from Javier Tebas, in which he basically targets Laporta and Barcelona, because as you can clearly tell, this is a president who supported Bartomeu, who in all those years where those shady things were happening, you didn't hear a single word from Javier Tebas. But when Laporta's in charge, what do you hear? You hear constantly, "Oh, Barcelona can't do this. Barcelona can't do that. Laporta needs to resign," and that's a good sign that Barcelona is doing something right. Because as you know, he is one of the many people who do not want to see Barcelona succeed. And knowing that we have Joan Laporta at the helm makes me so much more confident.
For
Um,
sure. No, he's definitely a president that instills confidence in the, I think, in the players, but also, and I can see it in the fans. I know seeing him back at the club was, a breath of fresh air. Seeing him with all the effort being put in, all the transfers. Yes, we lost players, mainly Messi, but we know that's not his fault. And what's more than that, you can see the progress in the last couple of years from where we were. The disappointing. Well, that's 3 years now, but the disappointing 8-2 loss against Bayern, not winning anything, and we see now how the team is, top of the league and competing in other domestic trophies, and I think it's great to see that. Yeah, like you're saying, something is being done right, but at the end of the day, I just think all of these investigations are just, they're ludicrous. Nothing's gonna nothing's gonna come out of it,
yeah.
and we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. We'll definitely keep you guys updated and on any news that comes out. Um, as you said, the Spanish Treasury said that there were no evidence to be found, and then UEFA has opened up an investigation on Barcelona. But if the Spanish Treasury hasn't found anything, it's very unlikely that UEFA will find anything. But now moving on to the next topic, guys. Lionel Messi's return. So these are some quotes from Joan Laporta. Messi knows that Barca doors are open. We will see. I have to find a way to improve the current relationship between Messi and Barca. The mark I've left, Messi's exit, when I became president was not good at all. I had to make a decision which I'm not satisfied with. Now, when you look at those quotes from John Laporta, we understand that what he did was for the better of the club. It was either you sign that CVC deal, you basically give Javier Tebas control of the club, which is something we do not want to do, um, or you let go of Messi. And I even though I don't agree on how it was done, I do still agree that it was the right decision. I do
It was
understand.
yeah, it was a huge sacrifice, but like you said, at the end of the day, it was for the better of the club, and who knows what will be if Tebas had gotten the deal. So,
Yeah, exactly. This was a CVC deal, which was like for significant less money than what we signed for. I think with Sixth Street, another investment company. Because remember, like one of the levers that we had sold, it was a deal which we sold. I think 25% of our TV rights for a significant amount of cash, and this was for half the time. For we got significantly more money and for a significantly less period of time, half the time period. So that CVC deal is for 50 years. Now imagine having um, another company, another business having control of our TV revenue for over 50 years. That should not be a thing whatsoever for a club at Barcelona. Um,
mhm.
and so John Laporta, he basically had to make a decision, and he chose the state of the club over Messi. Now, as much as I do agree that that decision was correct, the way it was done was not correct. And Laporta basically said that, hey, I want to improve and basically repair that relationship with Lionel Messi, and basically bring him back to the club in what would be a fairy tale return. But it's very difficult for Lionel Messi to return. There are multiple factors. We have to save 200 million on the wages by the summer if we are to bring, for example, to make any signings. So we would have to see, for example, wage cuts from Jordi Alba. You would have to see Busquets maybe have a wage cut. Ter Stegen, Frankie de Jong, players who are earning very high salaries. We have to see them take wage cuts.
I mean, but so sorry to interrupt, but Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets, their contracts are up in the summer, no?
Sergio Busquets' contract is up in the summer. Jordi Alba, I believe, is up next year.
Next year.
Um, yeah, but we have to see how the whole Sergio Busquets situation ends up, because we don't know if he's leaving. Xavi does want him to stay. I personally feel that this is a good time to let Busquets go.
Yeah.
I think we're getting like the lost drops of Busquets at the very top tier of football. This is a great opportunity. Like, hey, his contract runs out. Give him a very fair a farewell. By basically lifting up the La Liga title, he basically goes away with a trophy and the Super Cup, and he basically goes off into the sunset with a nice finish. We don't want to see. Besides, Barcelona's system is very dependent on that four midfielders right now, just to basically cover each other's weaknesses. And so I think this is good now for Busquets to basically depart the club. But not only is it the financial side, like saying, hey, the wages that Lionel Messi is going to be on, the wages that we need to save, the financial aspect is extremely hard. When you also look at the sporting side, this is a 35-year-old player who, yes, he's still one of the best in the world. He is reaching the latter stages of his career, and he is going to retire soon. And Barcelona is changing up their squad. They're moving away from that Messi era. They're moving into the post Messi era. You see how Ousmane Dembele, how Rafinha, they're taking more prominence in the team, and how the team is being structured with that format in midfield. Barcelona is moving away. So what I want to ask you, Alex, is do you believe that Messi will return? That's one thing. Do you believe that Messi will return? Will he want to return? And second question, do you want him to return?
Right. So, um, it's who wouldn't want the greatest player of all time to come back to his childhood team, to his
Yeah,
well, the team that he played for the grand majority of his career, and the team that he's made so much history with. It's definitely a tough question, but I think again, there's no way to know. I'm obviously not Messi. I don't know what he's thinking, but from what I've seen in history, players coming back to their clubs to play one last time. We've seen it with players like Frank Lampard, Didier Drogba. We well, two Chelsea players, but you've seen it throughout history, and for sure it's something that players like to do when for either reason, whatever reason they leave the team.
Ronaldo, Manchester United.
Ronaldo is a big one too, exactly at United. I think Messi wants to come back, especially considering that he didn't get a farewell like Piqué
Yeah,
or Xavi or Iniesta or Puyol, and it's funny because I think we're too young to remember a pre-Messi era, right?
yeah,
I mean, I know I started watching football and following Barcelona around 2010.
hmm
So for me, it's almost impossible to remember anything before that. I was too young, but when you think Barcelona, you think Messi. It's just two things that go natural,
yeah.
and you think of all the greatness that he's brought. I think he wants to come now. Excuse me. Do I think he's gonna come? That all depends at the end of the day on how much Barca want him. Because I think if it's up to Messi, he'd be playing here already. I know he hates it at PSG right now, and he's shown it time and time again. Um, PSG is a team that whether you realize it or not, they are in need of a rebuild,
Yeah.
and a rebuild, especially with a defense and midfield. Now, say Neymar and Messi leave, or Mbappe and Messi leave, that team is not going to have an issue finding forwards. Now, I believe Rafael Leao is on the radar in case Mbappe leaves, and again, that's an exciting young talent that we could very well see at the top level for the next few years. But PSG is a team that Messi doesn't want to be a part of. It's an organization that he joined because, well, I
He
think
had no
the
other
money.
choice.
Yeah, and the money was good. He had no other choice. But then again, he could have gone to teams like maybe Manchester City or
Well,
there.
but the
There
thing
were,
is that Manchester City signed Grealish.
that is true. Yeah, it was 100 million, a bit
Yeah,
overpriced if you ask me. But
yeah, they signed
um,
Grealish, like, and they were also, I think, looking for Harry Kane at the same time.
right. So
Um,
no, of course, and those were more reasonable. Um, they were more reasonable purchases because they are younger players.
mhm.
Maybe they're easier to fit into the system because when you have Messi in the team, yes, he's gonna carry the attack, not only in scoring but also in assisting. But he's a player that has to be part of the game. He's got to be the number 10. Now, we saw when he was at Barca, it was at times earlier in his career he was a false nine, and basically he played in the near the box of the opposing team. And yes, he was part of the midfield, but not as strongly as we saw in years after, where he was a true 10. But but I digress. Now, would I want Messi to come back at Barcelona? Yes. And I'll tell you why. Barcelona right now, they have an issue with the midfield is that it's consistency. Now, the midfield is very good, but we have seen games even when we have all of our players where we're just not able to get that final pass through, where we're not able to get the attack to to capitalize on the chances we create. And I think it's two things. It's maybe lack of chemistry. It could be a big one because yes, they've been playing for a while now, but great teams are built over the years. We've seen the
Yeah.
most dominating sides
hmm
like
It's a
Liverpool
project. It's a
2019,
project.
2020. It's a matter of time, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we just don't have the right players, but you put Messi into it, he'll do one thing. He's gonna get the ball to midfield. He's gonna move it up to the
hmm
wingers or to the striker, and he's gonna either get the assist or get the goal. I know I'm putting it very simple, but there's not much else we can see. It's pure magic what he does,
What
and
what I see from this team, from Messi, if Messi is to come back, Messi's gonna need runners. He's gonna need people to make you basically make those runs where he can make those penetrating passes.
and that's where we have players like Dembele
Exactly.
and even Lewandowski, although he's not the fastest.
Or even, for example, I think even if we have, um, for example, that four man midfield. we can have, for example, Balde overlapping if we make a right back
That
acquisition.
would be dangerous.
Well,
Like Jog and Cell, I believe he's also linked to come to
exactly.
Barcelona.
Messi finding these passes would be amazing. When you have, for example, Gavi, when you have Pedri, when you have Frankie de Jong, who are able to cover ground, um, it allows for Messi not to do so much running. And I
Mhm.
am in favor for Messi. I wanted Messi, for example, to go to Manchester City, for example, to basically see how it is in the Premier League. I don't want him to extend at PSG. How can you boo Messi? How can you boo the greatest player of all time?
Yeah.
Um,
And it's not even his fault when you think about it. He's not a
exactly.
defender. He can't, and he's not a midfielder at the same time. He's not gonna
Exactly.
do
It
everything at
wasn't
once.
him who basically gave away the two goals against Bayern.
Well, and
And
even in the league, we see
exactly.
that PSG has long coming issues, and they're
He,
showing now.
exactly. The project as a whole was a failure. And getting Messi is not going to change that. Um, and so I would like I would like to Messi return just to see that fairy tale ending.
For
Um,
sure. Who wouldn't?
yeah, to basically see Messi retire at the club that he started. Because he came at the club at a very young age. He left because he needed to. He didn't want to. Um, he was basically forced out. And who wouldn't want to see the greatest player of all time retire at Barcelona? But do I think it's gonna happen? I don't think so. I think just La Liga is gonna make it impossible for Barcelona to allow to sign Messi, even though he's going to be coming on a free. I think the wages are going to be like impossible. I think that's going to be very hard. But who knows? Hopefully, I'm proven wrong, and Messi is able to come to the club. Um, but guys, one of the last pieces of news that we wanted to talk about on today's episode, were injuries. Frankie De Jong, Araujo, Pedri, and Usman Dembele are all injured. Um, Now this is just terrible, just because like as every single international break they absolutely ruin us. But as you can see, Pedri is out for another 3 to 5 weeks. He relapsed right before the Real Madrid game. Dembele, the same thing. It's not looking good for him. Christensen, he just got injured on duty for the Danish national team, and Frankie De Jong, right after that Real Madrid game, he suffered a knock. But here's the situation on each of them. So Pedri, Dembele, and Christian, they're all confirmed that they are going to be missing El Clasico. They're not going to be able to play on April the 5th. Frankie De Jong is in doubt. Araujo, he is injured, but it's like a knock. These are players which should be back for Elche. Frankie De Jong, maybe he'll be back for El Clasico. It might be a push. And this is a situation where I'm thinking like, hey, if even though he's not 100% fit, start him, because if we can drop a couple points in La Liga, for example, because we have that 12-point gap, we have a chance. We need to beat Real Madrid. We only have a one goal advantage. We basically need to basically go through that in order to win the domestic treble. Um, I don't know what's your thoughts on that, but these are all big blows to Xavi. And it looks that Marcos Alonso is going to supplement Christensen. Um, but I was also thinking, like, hey, why not move Kunde into the center back position and play Sergio Roberto in that right back spot? That is one option that is at Xavi's disposal. Um, so, Alex, what are your thoughts on all these injuries that are happening to us? Hopefully, there aren't any more injuries in the upcoming days. Um, for example, we have some players off in the international duty, such as Kunde, um, and the players in the Spanish national team.
Yeah, so we see that once again, the international break does not treat us well.
Yeah.
Terrible, terrible news, especially with the Christensen injury. Dembele and Pedri were already out, so I mean,
Hmm.
nothing new there. But De Jong is also one to look out for. I think he'll be back for Madrid. Maybe even for Elche, but we'll have to see. Now, I don't think this is the worst case scenario, just because, like you said, we still have Araujo and Conde. It's just a matter of if Xavi wants to actually do that, which I know he hates putting them to as center backs. He always likes giving Marcos Alonso the game time, but be that as it may, I think defensively, again, it's not the worst case scenario. And yeah, we could put Sergio at the right back. He's a utility player. He's gonna do whatever is asked of him, and I think he'll fit in the role fine. But it's definitely a tough situation. I do think I think the young for Elche is gonna get rest most likely unless he
Yeah.
comes back much quicker than expected.
Even though, like in that game against Elche, I would like to see the three forward play. I don't think against Elche you need to have that four-man midfield to basically protect and control the game. I think having the three
Yeah,
forwards, having Ferran Torres, Ansu Fati, and Lewandowski all up top, I think that's something that Xavi should go for. Give Frankie de Jong some rest. I, I possibly wouldn't even play Araujo. I'll maybe give him some rest as well, have him ready for El Clasico 100%. But, after these 2 weeks of not playing, if Araujo is to start, I wouldn't mind that. Um, just April 5th, I think that's a huge day. And having these injuries it just harms our chances even more. It gives Xavi less options because we saw that even though we conceded two goals, no, even though we conceded a goal, that was an old goal from us. I thought Barcelona as a whole defended pretty well. I thought
yeah. I don't
Christensen,
think I don't think we give a lot of clear chances to
we
Madrid.
exactly, we didn't give it clear chances. I thought Christensen was absolutely world class in that game. He played an
I
absolute
mean,
monstrous
yeah, he's
performance.
a monster. He's a
He's
monster at
he's an
center.
absolute monster, and having him in the back is going to be such a huge miss. Um, and so the team is basically Xavi's going to basically have to tinker and basically see what he can do to basically make up for that miss. Frankie de Jong, again, I think Pedri is another huge miss. These are injuries which you do not want to be having right now at this point of the season, in the business end of the season. Um, these are not going to be favorable at all. But Alex, do you want to give any thoughts or comments? But before we round off the episode,
I think these next few weeks are going to show if Barca is really worthy of winning the league and winning the Copa del Rey, and we're going to see this with how we deal with these
mm-hmm.
difficulties.
Yeah.
Um, Pedri and Dembele are expected by the second week of April, right?
I'm guessing it's actually expected maybe like the end of April, mid-April, around
Oh,
there.
both?
Yeah, both of them. So like 3 to 5 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
it's big misses, big misses.
mhm, for
It's gonna
sure. Yeah, we'll have to see. I think it's gonna be a tough period nonetheless, but we've seen Rafinha put up great performances up there for Dembele, and we've seen Kessie step up in every game he's been asked to do so.
mm-hmm.
So we'll
Yeah,
have to see, but I'm still confident. I think we'll win against Leche. Um, and I think we can play the three-man attack. We can give Ferran some minutes, maybe give Ansu Fati some minutes, even Rafinha. But we'll see. The Madrid game is definitely a big one. Thankfully, we do have a goal lead that we're going in there with. But again, it could have been two. But nonetheless, we have to go there and win.
yeah,
Simple as that.
definitely,
We're
definitely.
gonna have to man up and take it as we go.
Definitely. But guys, that was it for tonight's episode. Basically, we gave you like a bit of a news roundup. Basically everything that's happened in the Barcelona world. It is the international break, and it's as usual, it's slow during the international breaks. Since the team isn't playing. But guys, what do you think of the Negreira case? What do you think that Barcelona is guilty of buying referees, about bribing them? What do you think of the Lionel Messi return? Or do you guys want Messi to return? Do you guys not want him to return? What are your thoughts on that? And also, what are your thoughts on these injuries? How do you think they're going to affect the team? Do you think that these are a massive miss and basically are going to hamper us in the season, or do you think that Barcelona have enough quality throughout the squad to basically win these games and go through these weeks without missing them? But as always, guys, I post a link on Twitter at Kool-Aid Podcast 10. Always feel free to join. Click on the link, and then you'll be able to join into the hangout and basically give your thoughts, comments, and discussions and everything. But as always, guys, like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you guys all in the next episode.